guys, happy Thursday. How are you all doing? I'm so excited to dig into this topic today, the state of the coaching space as we wrap up 2025 and move into 2026. I have seen a lot of chatter in the online space, people asking what's working to make sales. Are we still in a recession? What happens if the economy bombs? What can I expect moving forward? What's working for you to make sales right now? Why have my sales slowed down? So I think this is a much needed overview and hopefully a really good window into where there is some opportunity, because while I know there's a lot of doom and gloom in the space right now, I don't think there's a valid reason for that. I think there is some refining happening, and we'll talk about what that looks like in just a moment. But I don't think that any of us have reason to worry that the coaching space is crashing or that there is no more value in having a coaching business. So let me switch over to my notes page and we will get started here. Okay, so before we get into it, I just want to call out a few things, right? There are a lot of people leaving the coaching space right now. Many of those people have been in business for a while. They had a lot of success in 2020 and 2021 when we were in the middle of the pandemic boom and people were sitting around bored and wanting to try something new and wanting connection and had that government money to spend. If you remember, many of us received payouts. I forgot what they were called. But anyways, people who were successful then are leaving the coaching space now. I have seen this with at least 5 or 6 of the big multi-million-dollar a year businesses and coaches that I used to follow. And the reasons given have been everything from I pursued a branch in my business that was no longer profitable, to I just don't feel relevant anymore, to it's too much work, it's too much energy, I can't do it anymore, right? And I've also seen some smaller coaches, some making, $250,000, $300,000 a year, who have decided that they don't want to pursue business anymore in 2025 and going into 2026. And a lot of people are taking that as an indication that the coaching space is crashing, or the coaching space is, that the bubble has burst. And I think that might be true. The bubble may have burst in that you could make fast money and make fast sales without a really great offer and without really great marketing. But I don't think the coaching space overall is in a downswing. And I'll share some statistics with you in just a minute. But what I have heard from many people that I think is really key is either I don't want to change with the times, or I feel like I have lost relevance. Right? Those are two things to keep in mind. And what both of those things say to me is essentially, I just don't want this anymore. And that's okay. People can absolutely make that decision. But that's the chatter that I'm hearing behind the scenes from people who are in these businesses as support coaches and whatnot. I know that's not being shared on the front end, so I just wanted to make that clear, that it is not necessarily that money isn't happening or business isn't happening or sales aren't happening. It's more that these people have just decided they don't want an online business anymore for whatever reason. Now, on the flip side, looking at my own business and looking at my clients' businesses, things are still working. I'm having a better year than I had in 2023 or 2024. I have several clients right now who are having record-setting years. One client hit high 5-figure months for the first time in August, and now she's been in business probably 6 or 7 years. In 2023, she cleared about $20,000. This year, she's going to clear between 50 and 60, and then in 2026, we have our sights set on 120K. We have our sights set on 10K months. And I absolutely know that's possible for her because we're setting up her business strategically and we're marketing with intentionality to make that happen. I have another client who is brand new to the online space. She just sold her first one-on-one coaching package. She's so excited because she was like, I don't know if I'm coming into the coaching space at the wrong time. Like, I keep hearing that things aren't working. We fleshed out her offer. She sold it within a day. I have another client who has a handful of passive passive income, if you want to call them that. We all know it's not really passive. Courses that she's selling, right? They're not something that she's actively launching, but she offers them all the time, evergreen, and she's always talking about them. Those are selling in record numbers right now. She just had a record-setting month in September with her courses. So all that to say, sales are still happening, businesses are still making money, people are still investing. And it's not just me and it's not just my clients. I did some research this week for this live, so I just want to go over some stats with you from the big names in the coaching space. This is from the International Coaching Federation, I believe is what ICF stands for. And then PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a data analysis company, I believe. So the global number of coaches is continuing to rise. It has risen 15% since 2023. It's expected to rise another 5 to 7% in 2026. So more and more people are coming into the coaching space, but there's also more money being invested into coaching. So it was 6.25 billion in 2024. It is expected to be 7.3 billion by the end of this year, 2025, and then another and I couldn't find an exact figure, but there is projected to be growth into 2026 and actually through 2028. I saw that there is projected growth. It's hard to find exact numbers because some of the data is older, and so their forecasts were like, we expect to reach 5 billion by 2028, but we've actually far surpassed that. Most coaches that were interviewed in some of these studies expect to make more money in 2026 than they did in 2025. They see that there is increased revenue coming in because they are having more clients coming to them, not just because they're charging more. So that's really great news for those of you who are like, well, the only people making good money are charging high ticket prices that I'm not comfortable charging. That's absolutely not the truth. The average hourly fee that coaches are charging across the board right now is $256 an hour. So you're in good company if you price your coaching services at $1,000 a month, or possibly even more if you offer between session support. That puts you right at the average for coaches across the country. Now, with all of those really great statistics, there are some specific areas where I'm seeing opportunity to pull some growth levers or to be innovative, we'll use that word, and get into a couple of areas where there's more growth opportunity than others. And we'll talk about those at the end of our live here today. But I do want to talk about this refining a little bit more in depth, right? I touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but I think this is really, really important to talk about what is actually happening in the coaching space and what you can learn from it and carry with you into 2026, right? So I'm seeing a refining. And what I mean by that is that while it was easy to make money during the pandemic, and I talked about that a little bit ago, right? And even before then, honestly, right? You could start a business, post on social media, get traction, find it fairly easy to make sales. You could post sporadically, you could talk about generalities about your business, and it would work. The algorithm would pick up your content and push it out in front of people. You could do conversion events or challenges or master classes, and you could just fire hose people with information. Or on the flip side, you could give very little insight and just play up how good your work is, and you could make sales from it. You could sign clients. You didn't have to have evidence. You didn't have to build trust. You didn't have to prove that you were who you said you were, right? In other words, you could half-ass your business prior to 2021 and probably even through 2021 and still sell out and still make six figures and still make good money. So that what that means is a lot of people at that point in time built really successful businesses without trying all that hard. And then they promised the next generation of coaches that they could also build their 6 and 7 figure businesses without trying very hard in just a few months if they just followed their quote unquote proven framework for success. And that probably worked maybe even into 2022 and early 2023. We really started seeing the change in the last 18 months or so, right? Our audiences got smarter about who they were investing with, and they got a lot more skeptical of trusting the big overnight success stories, as they should. A lot of people got burned by coaches who were using smoke and mirrors, right? Who were saying, I made 10K months just 2 months into my business, and I can show you exactly how to do the same. But they weren't necessarily able to repeat those results for their clients. They couldn't actually teach the strategy that they used or teach it well enough for their clients to get results. And so once their clients stopped getting results, their businesses kind of fizzled out. And those clients who invested with them also felt like they had been taken for a ride or taken through the cleaners, whatever the word is that you want to use. And so now they're much more skeptical of investing, right? And we just know that the strategies that worked even a year or two ago just don't work today. 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, post more often, get more visible, get on stories, you'll make more money. That's not necessarily the case right now, right? That doesn't mean it's impossible to build or grow or scale your business right now. But it does mean that it takes more intention to do so. So what I see and why I'm using this word refining is that I believe there's a really massive opportunity to harness this growth in the coaching industry and harness this projected increased income in the coaching industry for those of you who are willing to be intentional and strategic, and for those of you who are willing to pursue excellence in all areas of your business, from how you market and sell to how you deliver to your clients. Excellence is going to be the thing that brings success. In other words, I believe that the cream will rise to the top and the rest will fall away. The coaching space isn't crashing, it is simply being refined. So I'll give you a few bits of insight in just a few minutes into what some of those intentional strategies will look like. But just a couple more stats that I pulled. Industry revenue growth rate as of the end of 2024 was projected to be 6% per year through 2029 for the coaching space overall. That's every type of coach, from business coach, executive coaching, leadership coaching, health coaching, and specific niches have increased growth rates. One really interesting statistic that I found is that life coaching businesses are expected to grow through 2029, but they're expecting to see a 30% higher growth rate if you are someone who has narrowed into a very specific niche. Now, that's something that I've been talking about for years, right? You've probably heard this in the online space for years and years and years, but just there is that evidence that narrowing down, getting really specific, and delivering excellent results for a very specific type of client is what it's going to take to make more money and to continue to make sales as the coaching business continues on that refinement. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what I see working right now and what I suspect is going to continue working into 2026, right? So what I really want to draw your attention to here is if you implement these things now, I'm going to share both some business model and offer development type of information. I'm also going to share some marketing and sales information. But if you start implementing those things, you really will recession-proof your business. And what I mean by recession-proof is you're building for longevity. Your business will fluctuate in some instances with the economy and with the state of the coaching industry. That's just to be expected. But building for longevity means that your business is built to handle it, right? You are consistently marketing, you are consistently selling, you are consistently working with clients, you're saving money, you're building a profit account, right? These are the things you need to do to have a sustainable business. These are the things you need to do to make a long-term business that's going to support you for as long as you want it to support you, right? So if you build for longevity in a way that, number one, meets your clients where they're at, and number two, facilitates truly life-changing results, your business will be able to ride out any storm, right? So again, calling out that excellence. If you're truly excellent at your work and you deliver really great results for your clients, if you design your business with intentionality, and if you do your marketing and sales with intentionality, your work will continue to be relevant, your business will continue to be relevant, and your business will continue to be valuable no matter what the rest of the economy looks like. So let's start first with business models and offers and types of work and some evidence for what I'm seeing. So like I mentioned a moment ago, really specific niches are not individual niches, but those who are willing to niche down to a very specific area are expected to see faster growth than generalists, right? That's something we've been talking about for years. High level performers, so people who are either already successful in coaching or success in a coaching business or in some other form of entrepreneurship, or those who are successful in their corporate jobs, they are more likely to invest in coaching than the average everyday person. So it really does pay to niche down into some of these higher performing niches where you're serving higher performing clients. People in those niches value clear, confident, and constantly evolving coaches. And again, this comes back to messaging. Number one, clear, confident, easy to understand, and excellence, constantly evolving and keeping up with the times and the trends. Those two things are what your high level performers, your high level clients are looking for. A couple of other tips that I found really interesting, or stats that I found really interesting. Currently, the typical coaching engagement is 3 to 6 months. I think many of us have evidence that that works best for us. I know my 6-month container is my most popular container of everything that I've ever sold across the board. And I do find it gets much better results than any of my shorter containers did. And I also find that many of my clients renew for multiple containers, because the next part, clients find accountability very, very valuable right now. 62% of people who invest in coaching are investing in coaching, at least in part, for accountability to keep moving forward and maintain their progress. So what does this mean for you in terms of how to develop your offers? I think it goes without saying, but hands-on with your clients, customizing your work, and working either in one-on-one or in small group containers are going to be the most popular and the most lucrative moving forward. Things or containers or offers that are more focused simply on knowledge transfer or on frameworks and formulas, or that have a lot of extra just like random stuff thrown in them to try to make them more valuable, those are not going to be as popular going forward, right? People are really skeptical, number one, that frameworks and formulas work. I have noticed this even as I was towards the end of 2024 working and selling the messaging intensive that I was doing, where I was really leaning heavily into a content framework. I had a massive dip in sales in that offer towards the end of 2024 because people don't want frameworks anymore. They're tired of frameworks. They are tired of formulas. They don't want one size fits all. They want customization and they want help with implementation. The other thing that's true is people are very skeptical of offers that throw in everything, including the kitchen sink, because it just feels like if the core of the offer is really that valuable, why would you have to throw in all of this other bonus stuff to make it worthwhile, right? And I have seen this in my own buying behavior. I was going to join a program that was $997 at the end of last year. And I was willing to pay the $997 for the core program. I thought that was a great value for the core program. But then it turned out it came with like all of these extra things. It came with the ability to post in a specific Facebook group. It came with this extra bonus course. It came with this like template library. And I was like, if my offer, or if this offer that I'm looking at buying needs all of this other stuff to actually have the seller feel like it's worth the $997, I don't believe that the core program that I really want is actually going to deliver me the results, or help me get the results, or help me learn the thing that I want to learn, right? So be very cautious that over delivering or adding too much into your offer can actually reduce the value, and that's even more important now than it was a few years ago. Now, I mentioned that knowledge transfers, frameworks, formulas, etc., those kinds of things are not working. The biggest two reasons that I see for that are, number one, AI makes it so that you don't really need formulas and frameworks, right? You can type into AI, give me a formula for blah, 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 or give me a framework for blah, 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 and it will pull something together for you. So a lot of people are not seeing the value in frameworks and formulas for that reason, or because they're skeptical, again, of the like one size fits all type of content framework or type of, way to get the solution. The other thing is information overload. With so much content out there and so much free stuff out there, information has no more value. People don't just want courses, they don't just want information. They want help implementing and they want help troubleshooting. So, two things that I'm seeing work really well right now and that will continue to work as we move forward are smaller programs and one-on-one work. People want lots of hands-on attention. They want customization. They want help solving their specific problems, overcoming their specific blocks or obstacles. And they want to feel supported. And again, like the other statistics showed earlier, they want accountability. They want help continuing to move forward, or they want someone to help them continue to move forward. Another thing that I have seen, and this may tie a little bit more into the marketing part of what we're going to talk about today, but I see clients at all levels, from the beginner level all the way through the high level client, being a lot more selective in who they work with. They're not looking just for someone who can get them the best results or get them the results in a record amount of time. They're also looking for alignment on a personal level. So what I mean by that is they're looking for people who share their values. A lot of the Christian women that I see are looking for other Christian women as coaches and clients. Or if they're looking for people in the same stages or seasons of life, right? I was talking about this just the other day on my own timeline, but I don't want to work with a coach who's 20 years old or 22 years old, who's single, doesn't have kids, has all the energy in the world. She's not going to relate to my life as someone who is almost 45. I've got 3 kids. I have a million things on my plate. My energy is not consistent. It definitely isn't what it was 20 years ago. I've got some hormonal things happening, right? My life is so different, and the season of life that I'm in is so different that while I can look to them for inspiration, I don't know that they would really get me and where I'm at in this season of life and accurately be able to guide me, because they just don't understand where I'm at and all of the things that actually go into parenting and marriage and aging and all of the things, right? So working with people, or I should say it this way, clients are looking to work with coaches who are in the same or similar seasons of life, or who are a little bit further down the journey, who can guide them to get where the coach themselves currently is, right? Clients are looking for people who can show you that you have the results that they want, right? They want you to go first. We'll talk a little more about what I mean with that in a minute, but essentially, if you are a manifestation coach, or you work with the Enneagram, or you're a relationship coach, you don't necessarily have to have the dream life, but you do want to show that you have implemented some of the work that you teach, right? That you have made progress on the journey and you know what you're talking about, both in your own journey, but especially also with clients. And this is a big thing with the smoke and mirrors that happened back in 2020, and I'm seeing this a little bit happening again now in 2025. I'll talk more about that on next week in one of my posts. But people back then were using, and we talked about this a little earlier, right? They were using promises of big sales and record-setting months to sell their programs, but then they weren't able to coach their clients to achieve the same results. So it was all about me, look at my results, look at my life, I'm so amazing and incredible. Today, people are looking for proof that you can help your clients get to that level as well. And this is across the board in all things. Now, again, this doesn't mean that you have to have 2,000 clients who have made $1 million, or that you have helped every single client that you've ever worked with have the most incredible marriage and find the perfect husband. But it does mean that you do have to have some client testimonials on the very specific things that you help with, right? If you help with confidence, for example, that then helps them find their soulmate, right? You want to see some testimonials on how you help them gain confidence and that you had success helping them gain confidence, right? So really making sure that you're leaning into your client results as well as your own results. One other thing that I'm seeing is, and I think this is actually a really good thing, and so I love that I'm seeing it, is I see clients being more cautious and asking more questions before they buy. And I think that's actually a really good thing. I think we're seeing a really big increase in client accountability, which we absolutely should. There was a lot of coach shaming and coach blaming a few years ago as people were starting to get burned. Some of that was accurate. People were using smoke and mirrors to make sales. But at the same time, we as clients also need to be accountable for our part in the client coach relationship and in the sales process, right? If we just blindly accepted someone's claims of income or how they said they could help us without doing any research on our own, that's a problem, and part of the blame is on us. Even if that coach wasn't in full integrity or didn't have the skill to deliver us to that result, it's still partially on us to make sure that we vet that coach before we work with them. And I do think we have to be very clear on who we work best with, what type of context it takes to get the results that we promise, and we need to say no to people who are not the right fit. I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to admit, but in the long run, that helps your integrity, that helps the longevity of your business, that helps you get better client results and better client testimonials. It's just better overall for your business. So I think both coaches and clients need to take accountability for making sure there's alignment and making sure at every step of the sales process and at every step of the client coach relationship that we are both holding up our end of the deal. Okay, I'm going to grab a sip of my water here. I'm going to check to see if there's any comments, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the actual sales process and what I'm seeing work right now and what I expect to see continuing to work here. Okay. So, with all of this said, what is working to make sales? We're going to talk a little bit about a few specific strategies and a few specific components of marketing and sales that I'm seeing working. And then we're going to go back to looking at some of the data that I pulled in my research this week on a few areas that I believe there's a lot of growth opportunity because not a lot of people are using them. So that's where we'll kind of wrap in just a little bit here. But let's first talk about what is working to make sales. So relationships. Relationships have always been an important part of the marketing and sales process, right? This is why you still often see posts that are like, I'm looking for a health coach. Does anyone have a recommendation? Because there are so many coaches in every industry and every industry has a lot of competition, people really value other people's opinions and other people's experiences, more so probably even than your own marketing. So building those relationships so that other people can give you referrals is a really great strategy. Also building relationships with potential clients, right? And again, coming at this from the standpoint of longevity. That you are planting seeds today that you might not harvest for 6 months or even a couple of years down the road. That is a very valuable strategy that not a lot of people are willing to invest in. So what does this look like practically? You all know that I'm a big fan of Facebook groups because there's such a great opportunity to get in front of so many people and build relationships with so many people. Another really great strategy is getting in front of other people's audiences. Yes, you can do that through Facebook groups, but there's a million other ways to do that, right? Podcasts, Instagram collaborations, lead magnet swaps, going live in other people's groups. There are so many ways to get in front of other people's audiences, and I find that those are really beneficial because it deepens the relationship with the other coach that I'm using their audience, but then it also gives me a little bit of a boost with their audience because I have the buy-in already from a person that they trust. So that trust transfers to me. So those are really good strategies right now. I'm also finding in-person networking, and I'm sure you've heard this across the board from lots of other people. In-person networking is really, really working well for me right now. And two of my potential clients that are, I don't want to say fighting over my last spot for this month, but potentially, they're both people that I met in a local networking group. So absolutely, in-person networking is working. And truthfully, even as someone who's very socially awkward and introverted, I found a way to make it work for me. If this is something that you would want to implement into your business and you're not sure how to do it in a way that doesn't feel awkward and sleazy and gross, book a free call with me. I'm happy to chat with you about what I'm doing right now that is working really well and how you can implement that in your business as well. Okay, high quality assets across the board at every step of your funnel. I touched on this in last week's live, but I do want to make sure that I mention it again. Your content, your sales pages, your conversion events, they all need to be done with intention, right? You cannot half-ass anything anymore. Everything needs to be very targeted to your specific ideal client. You have to have specific messaging about the problems that you help them solve and the results that you help them get. You have to make sure that you are speaking clearly and confidently about how you can help them. So it does not work to speak in generalities. It does not work to make over-the-top promises that seem unbelievable. It does not work to fire hose people with information or speak to your lowest common denominator client. You really need to be speaking to the very specific person that is the right fit for your offer, right? We talked about how people who are niching down are going to be 30% more profitable going forward than generalists. This is one of the very first steps of that, is getting clear on who your ideal client is and then making sure you're speaking very clearly to that person in all of your marketing collateral. And then the big thing that we talked about last week in last week's live was including evidence of why they should trust you and that you have experience. And this comes back down to all of the things we talked about earlier, right? Your own results, client results, sharing your expertise, sharing a bit about your method, right? Giving them all of the reasons they should trust you versus anyone else who's out there in the same space as you. Another thing that I'm seeing work really well right now is having very personalized touch points. Gone are the days of sitting by and waiting for people to slide into your inbox. It does happen. I still occasionally get an email or a DM from someone who's like, I've been reading your content and I'd really like to work with you. Can we chat a little bit about what that looks like? But it's the exception, not the norm. Of my 3 new clients this quarter, only one of them reached out to me unprompted. And honestly, she was somebody that I had worked with in a very small, inexpensive container a couple of years ago. So it wasn't even like it was a cold person or it was unprompted. It was just someone who had been like processing from that touch point a couple of years ago. Now, I mentioned before that your clients want to see you go first. And I think this works in 2 ways. We talked earlier about they want to see that you've done the work and that you have the results and that you are as good at your work as what you claim you are. But they also want you to start the conversation and plant the seeds. So yes, this potentially means that you are sending DMs to people or reaching out to people and letting them know that you would like to work with them. I truly believe that even cold-ish DMs have a place in your strategy. So let me give you an example. This morning I sent emails to 2 people that I met in a networking group yesterday. And I just sent them a short, clear email telling them exactly how I could help them and offering them a free call. We didn't have a long, in-depth conversation. I wouldn't consider them a friend or an acquaintance even at this point in time. So this is a cold-ish email, right? This is not somebody that I already have a relationship. It's just somebody that I met at a networking event. However, I'm reaching out and I'm offering my services immediately, which is going to stand out to them if and when they are ever looking for my kind of services. Now, as I've mentioned this before in several of my posts, I don't assume that people have a pain point or a problem that I can solve. I assume that things are going really well for them in my message, but I do let them know that if they're ever looking for the type of service that I offer, that I'd love to work with them, and here's how they could reach out to me, or the next step. Like, usually it's a free call, right? So I'm not, how do I say this? I'm not coming at them and going, I noticed that you seem to be struggling with X, Y, and Z, and I can help you with that. It's more like, you seem to be a really great person. I think there's a lot of alignment between you and the work that I do. And if you're ever looking for a one-on-one business coach, I would love to have the opportunity to chat about the potential of us working together, right? Like, that's really putting the ball in their court, but also planting the seed and letting them know that I'm available to that and that I choose them first. That's what I mean by you going first. You letting them know that you see them and you see the value in their work, or you see the value in them as a person, and you choose them. So if you want to start implementing a reach out strategy into your work, message me and let me know. I'll send you a couple of resources that I have for free, some posts that I did on my DM strategy and on my DM script, and like how I structure my reach outs. Then the other thing is, think about how you can give your people a taste of working with you before they buy. So in my case, I often do social media audits or strategy calls. That's usually the first step that I do with new clients. So now I'm just doing this for free for potential clients, and then that gives them the taste of what it's like to start working with me. There's a lot of different ways that you could do this. I know some people even charge like $29 for an audit, or a short Telegram session, or something like that, where it's just a taste of what it's like to work with you. That's very low risk, but that can help assure them and build trust with them that you can deliver them the results that they're looking for in your more expensive programs. Okay, then the last thing that I want to talk about today is where there's opportunity for growth in some specific marketing channels. So there were a few stats that I found. I pulled 5 of them that give some insight into where you could do something differently that a lot of other coaches are not doing, which means there's a bigger opportunity for you and a bigger growth lever for you in that space. So podcasts. According to my research, only 36% of coaches are using podcasts to build brand authority. So there's a big opportunity for growth if you want to be one of those people who uses podcasts to grow your business. TikTok. Only 30% of coaches are currently using TikTok for outreach. So there's a big growth opportunity on TikTok, and to stand out as a coach if you use TikTok for outreach. Paid ads. I find this surprising. Only 41% of coaches are currently using ads to generate leads. So there's a massive opportunity in the paid ad space. And this was both Meta ads and Google ads. Email. Again, this is another one that just boggles my mind. Only 35% of coaches are using email newsletters for lead nurturing. So having an email list can be a massive growth lever for you, because you are one of the third of coaches that's doing that. So that's a really great area of growth and a really great growth opportunity. And then running workshops or retreats. Only 33% of coaches are currently running workshops, in-person workshops or retreats. And so there's a lot of growth opportunity in that space. And I know that I have a client right now who is working on her first retreat in 2026. And so we're super excited about that. But I was very excited to see that that's one of the areas that there's a lot of growth potential. So if you've been thinking about in-person workshops or retreats, there's a lot of growth potential for you right there. Okay, so hopefully this live today let you see that the coaching industry is not crashing, that it's not all doom and gloom, that there actually is a lot of opportunity for growth. There is projected to be a lot of growth in the space. And if you are someone who truly values the work that you do, you're in business to change lives and make a difference in the world, there is space for you in this world, and there is a massive opportunity for you to build the business of your dreams. So if you're looking for guidance and support as you grow and scale your business, I would love to be the one in your corner cheering you on as you grow to 10K months or 20K months or whatever it is that your dream business looks like. And whether you want to harness some of those untapped growth channels like podcast guesting or hosting retreats, or if you prefer to stay with something more tried and true like Facebook, I can help you create the right strategy that incorporates whichever like tactics, tools, platforms that feel like the right one for you. And of course, we won't just go off of emotion. We'll also look at the data of where your clients are coming from, where you're having the best conversion rate, all of those things, right? My coaching is a hybrid. I guide you with my experience, but we also coach. I also come alongside you to support you on a personal level as you're growing your business. So you get the tactical, tangible strategy support and the mindset support and the accountability. And remember, 62% of coach clients come into coaching specifically for accountability. So I know how valuable that is. So I'm really selective about who I work with and how many clients I can support at any given time. I have one coaching spot still open for 2025, and I have 2 week-long intensives yet this year. So if either of those sound like what you are looking for, send me a DM or book a call. I'll put the link in the comments, and please, please, please get that on the calendar ASAP. I know I only have a couple of free calls open for next week. So if you have any questions about anything that I covered here, from where I got the information from, why I'm saying some of the things that I'm saying, or how I have made some of these things work for me in my business, please reach out. I'm happy to chat about any of that. But other than that, have a really great day, and we will talk soon.